Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, so we're going to be doing part 2 of our comprehension skill, which is character setting and plot. Okay, so we're really focusing on that plot portion of it, right? So if you remember, the plot is the big events that happen in a story. Okay, so plot is going to tell us about the character, the setting, all of the events, maybe the problem and the solution, or the conflict and resolution that happens in almost every story. Okay, so we read a text, we listened to the Brain Pop, and it told us a quick little fictional story, right? And then we listened to a text called The Brave Fish, and we discussed the plot of that story. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do a little bit more work with plot, and we're going to be looking at a text, and we're going to be looking at short sections of this text. Okay, now this text, some of us have read before, which is A Visit to the Desert. Okay, and we're going to be looking at this and, like I said, little parts of the text that are going to help us with understanding the plot and finding the plot of a story. Okay, I'm just making sure you guys are able to see this really quickly on your end. I'm not sure you're, oh, okay, there you are. Okay, so when you read A Visit to the Desert, think about the plot. What is the plot? The plot is the events that happen in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Identifying important events in the plot will help you understand what happens in the story. All right, so if you're ready to go, we'll start. And now, again, like we did in our first video, you're going to make a beginning, middle, and end chart. Kind of looks like this. How we wrote beginning at the top, middle in the middle of the paper, and end towards the bottom, and sectioned it off so we could write in those boxes. Okay? So you guys are first going to listen, and then we're going to do one together, and you're going to do a part on your own. So for right now, just set your pencil and paper off to the side, and let's just listen and watch as I find the plot for the beginning of the story. Okay? The directions say, read the passage. Highlight an event that happens in the beginning of the story. Excuse me, write this information in the graphic organizer. Use the think aloud to help you. All right, so first we have to read this passage. Tim was looking forward to this vacation. Then his parents told him the family would be visiting Grandma in Nevada. Tim was unhappy. He wanted to be with his friends this summer. So if you think about, the beginning already introduces us to characters and a setting, okay? So when I read A Visit to the Desert, I think about the plot. What happens to Tim? How does Tim feel? So that's a really good thinking when you're trying to find what is the plot of the beginning, middle, and end, is what is happening to that character. Maybe how is the character feeling, okay? So what I read was that Tim was sad, or he was unhappy that he would be visiting his grandma in Nevada. So remember, when we're writing down for the plot, we are summarizing, meaning we're putting this into our own words, okay? So we talked about the character, which is Tim. So we said in the beginning what happened was Tim is unhappy because he has to go to Nevada for his vacation. Then it also tells the setting. It says Nevada, right? Okay, so I want you to pause this video and I want you to get this part written down underneath your beginning on your paper. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, let's move on to the middle. What happens in the middle of the text, okay? Read the passage. Highlight an event that happens in the middle of the story. Okay. The next morning, Grandma met them at the airport. Then they drove to the desert. As they hiked, Grandma explained that animals enjoy the open desert space. It gives them the freedom to move from place to place. Tim learned that the animals find ways to adapt to the hot desert weather. He wondered if he could get used to the desert climate. Hey, so what do you guys think is a big event, or maybe more than one event, that we can summarize or squeeze together to make one sentence? So what is one thing that happened in this passage? Well, I'm going to say a big event was they drove to the desert, right? Because that's where this takes place. This is talking about the setting. So the setting is also a really important part when we're talking about beginning, middle, end. It helps us to understand. Okay, so one big event was they drove to the desert. What was another event in here that we can maybe summarize together to put into our own words? Yeah, so we can say something about the animals, right? Tim learned that the animals find ways to adapt to the hot desert weather because we know that he was here to look at the animals when we found that out and we read the text, okay? So a way that we can summarize this into one sentence, there we go, is we can say, let's talk about the characters, right? Tim and Grandma, let me capitalize that, and Grandma went to the desert. See, we have the character and setting. And then what is it that they did? So we know one thing was that they drove to the desert. So instead of went, I'm going to say drove since that's what the text said. Tim and Grandma drove to the desert and Tim learned how animals adapt to the hot desert weather. Okay, make sure you pause and you get that written down under your middle section. Ooh, let's move on to the end. Okay, ready? All right, read the passage. Highlight an event that happens at the end of the story. So again, boys and girls, I know that erased, but look, if I pop over, it's still there. Okay, all right. Which means it's time for us to head back, Dad added. Aw, this vacation is going by too fast, Tim said. They asked Tim about the heat. What heat? Tim asked. I feel as fresh and cool as a new flower. I've adapted. Everyone laughed. So what was a big event there that happened at the end of the story? I want you guys to pause the video and I want you to think about it and write it down. Go ahead. Okay, what did you say? So remember, you can highlight more than one thing. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and say that they had to head back, right? And we knew at the beginning of the text that Tim was unhappy. So a big event that happened at the end is that Tim said this vacation is going by too fast. So that means that he enjoyed his visit. He's happy now because at the beginning he really wasn't, right? So very good. So the end, so again, how it is solved. How is the problem solved? Because the problem at the beginning, it told us right there that he was unhappy, right? So how was the whole story solved and resolved? Is that Tim enjoyed being there, even though at first he didn't like it. So we'll say they had to head home and Tim was sad to leave. Because then that concludes or wraps up our story, right? Nothing else happened after they left. Okay, guys, make sure you pause and you get that end written down too. So we're going to conclude, we're coming to the end of our story or our lesson on plot. Okay, so I hope you guys learned a lot and I'll see you next time.